Retreat mechanic, what is it, and how does it work in the tabletop game Ghosts of Ur? In the adventure guide, it simply states the following, although I feel and I've seen that it can be used for so much more during an average adventure. Anyway, here's what the adventure guide says. All adventurers that have lost any combat roll must retreat immediately to any other adjacent discovered square and ends movement for the current turn. Adventurers can move into AVA fights, AVE fights, neutral spaces, and ziggurats. Adventurers cannot expose undiscovered squares in retreat. Adventurers cannot gain discovery cards at the end of any turn that they were in retreat. Adventurers cannot retreat into a fight that they have already lost on retreat a second time, and cannot move onto a square on the adventure board that might force them to do so. If an adventurer is forced to retreat with no discovered tiles adjacent, the adventurer must move back to where the turn started. That's it? Just one small paragraph tucked away in 6 pages of adventure mechanics? Sounds simple, right? Sounds like it's no big deal, doesn't it? However, nothing could be further from the truth. Retreat is the most common and dynamic of all the mechanics in the tabletop adventure Ghosts of Ur, as it can both hurt an adventurer and help one also if used in the right circumstances. If we take that paragraph again, one sentence at a time, I'll show you just some of what I mean. All adventurers that have lost any combat roll must retreat immediately to any other adjacent discovered square and ends movement for that current turn. And these sort of jack you at the same time, adventurers cannot gain discovery cards at the end of any turn that they were in retreat. What that means is that when you lose to another adventurer, Kish, or Acadian, you have to sort of get out of dodge and cannot get any discovery card at the end of that current turn. While it obviously sucks to be in retreat, there are a few things about it that can actually be beneficial if you're a smart adventurer. Let's take a look at this other sentence in that paragraph. Adventurers can move into AVA fights, AVE fights, neutral spaces, and ziggurats. Adventurers cannot expose undiscovered squares in retreat. What that means is that when an adventurer is in retreat, there suddenly becomes lots of choices they can make as to where they go and what to do. They can even move into other combat that they did not intend, but that could possibly be very beneficial for them. As an example, Anglian wants to go to Eridu because he needs the water map, but he only rolled a 1 on his Erd dice. Well, he can move towards Eridu 1 space and fight the Kish in that area, and if he loses, he's on retreat and can then move into Eridu as his retreat move. Think about it. Technically, he could move all the way across the whole map at the end of his move simply by getting his ass handed to him. It's unlikely, but possible. In this way, retreat can become bonus movement all over Sumer just because the adventurer is a loser. Now let's take a look at this sentence next. Adventurers cannot retreat into a fight that they have already lost on retreat a second time and cannot retreat into a square on the adventure board that might force them to do so. What this simply means is that Kish, Acadians, and other adventurers do not have to beat you twice in the same turn. In this example, Anglian loses to the Kish, and he cannot retreat into Westhay, because if he were to lose against Westhay next, the only space he could retreat to is the combat that he already just lost. He will have to retreat off that Kish somewhere else. Also keep in mind this last sentence. If the adventurer is forced to retreat with no discovered tiles adjacent, the adventurer must move back to where the turn started. How can that be? How would that be possible? As an example, let's say Anglian uses a caravan card from his discovery hand and moves across Sumer and attacks Westhay here. If he loses the combat because he cannot move diagonally like Westhay can, he has no other adjacent discovered square on the adventure board. He is forced to simply go back to where he started. As you can see that while retreat is one small paragraph tucked in the Adventurer's Guide, it is the mechanic in Ancient Sumer with the most to offer a wily adventurer with a head for strategy.
See you in Ancient Sumer, Spring of 22 Kickstarter.